Welcome to That's Inclusive, where we talk about disability and what it means to live a full life engaging in our communities. What does that look like, and how can we work together to make our world a more inclusive place?
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of That's Inclusive from the New Hampshire Council on Developmental Disabilities. I'm your host today. My name is Patricia Vincent-Piet. I am here with Jean Crouch, our chairperson at the council. She also works as a supervisor for the Bureau of Elderly and Adult Services here in New Hampshire and has some pretty interesting perspectives on aging and developmental disabilities. So we're just going to get right into it. Hi, Jean. Welcome for coming.
Well, hello, Pat. Thank you for asking me. This is such a privilege. I'm so happy to be here today and share my thoughts with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited that you could be here. My first question is really simple. How did you end up becoming a member of the council?
Well, let me tell you, this is about 3 years ago, 2019. As I said, as you know, I work for the Bureau of Elderly and Adult Services, and we actually are housed, or sort of like we share the offices with the Bureau of Developmental Services. And a past council member named Jan was looking for somebody who was interested in applying from the Bureau of Elderly and Adult Services, and I said, I am. And so my supervisor agreed, so I filled out an application, and I submitted it, and I was appointed and I was voted in, so here I am.
Well, we have been so happy to have you. How long have you been with the Bureau?
I've been with the Bureau about 10 years, but I just want to go back on something that I noticed as I was waiting for the process of the application to be finished.
Oh, sure.
I thought, well, I think I'm going to stroll through their website, and that's exactly what I did. And I found the 5-year plan, which actually is not the current plan, but the previous plan, at the current plan we're in. And I noticed, there's nothing about healthy aging in this plan. And so I was really very excited soon after I joined the council that I had the opportunity to join the development committee for the 5-year plan. And I was actually very happy to bring healthy aging to the table. Everyone gets older.
Right. Healthy aging is a big issue. I mean, I've noticed that it's odd because healthy aging is such a big issue. You hear people talking about it all the time. But in a way, a lot of the things that the media and the public talk about when they talk about healthy aging isn't really accessible. Like, one way to stay healthy is to walk. Well, what if you can't walk? And so thinking about how to age healthy when you already had barriers in the past.
Exactly.
Is a really important thing to talk about. What made you decide to take a leadership position at the council?
Well, I very much like to support and assist in building capacity within the community. And during my first 3 years, I noticed, oh my goodness, how much talent is around this council table. And I'm like, I really would love to play a role in sort of helping folks build their personal strengths. Because personally, I would really like to see individuals with lived experience and who really could lead the council into where it needs to go. And so I thought, why not throw my hat in the ring to be a council member, and maybe I can have a little say in that. And again, I can't tell you how much talent I see around that table.
Right, right. So you were elected chair, last fall?
October, yes, this past October 2022. Wow.
Yeah, so time has flown. What's something you've learned about the council since you've become chair?
I learned a lot, actually, and it's been quite an eye-opener. But first of all, there's so many moving parts within the council, and there's so few staff people to make that happen. So I really can, when I was on the council, there was a lot of talk about people need to participate, need to be kind of a working council. But I can see really now how very important it is that our council members are really working and participating in different areas that we're trying to work on. It's really not about kind of having ideas. It's about really putting those ideas into action, and that's imperative for the success of the council.
Right. And what are some ways that, can you give me an example of a council member who has put an idea into action?
Me. No.
Well, yeah.
No. I would like to say there was our vice president. Our vice chair has really, he and I worked a lot together, and he's actually really grown into quite a gentleman and quite a action kind of oriented person. There's a couple of others that I just kind of reached out as the chairperson, thinking maybe I'd have a little bit more. Like, that's a wonderful idea. So how are you going to do it?
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because there are a lot of good ideas, but being a part not only of coming up with an idea, but being a part of bringing it to life and not relying on others to do so, because we do have a limited staff. What do you think that elderly and adult services has in common with DD services?
Well, I think we have a lot in common, and I'd like to talk a little bit about that.
That'd be great.
Well, we both have workforce issues that have really increased isolation of the folks that I support, and has affected some critical care needs of the folks that you take care of, as well as isolation. I think we're doing the same thing for maybe a little different of a population. We combat isolation, especially through the pandemic, and it's been horrible, especially for both. I mean, I know that many of the folks with developmental disabilities had programs and what have you, and they lost it. It's like all of a sudden, overnight, they lost it. And there are a lot of individuals that I support, that are aging, that suddenly had nobody to come in to help them. And I think we really have that in common. For sure, we were both looking at reframing the words that we use to describe a person. Reframe language that implies negative stereotypes, what both of us experience, and we combat against. We all age. Often groups are looked upon, the group that I support and the folks with disabilities, is being needy, draining the system, high cost of care, and that's how they look at us. Wow. And we both promote a sense of feeling that we're contributing. That's very important to succeed in life, is to feel like you're giving something. We both promote a sense of belonging and value. Did I say that 3 times? I think I did. We promote and protect rights and dignity, facilitating full participation in society with the folks that we support. And I just kind of want to go back to language a little bit. Right. You experience ableism, and we experience ageism. Mm-hmm. And there's a parallel for sure in that. Example of, like, with the elderly, it's elders speak. With folks with developmental disabilities, it's like first our disability, then their person, not person first language. Mm-hmm. That's a big battle we have ahead of us, and so we should do it together.
Has there been any conversation within the aging community about how to address ageism that you know of?
Absolutely. I play a big role in that. As a matter of fact, I think the first step we need to do, and we are actually at the Bureau, we're doing it as well, as reframing the way we speak. We have pamphlets all over the place that talks about how pathetic it is to get old. What is wrong with that picture? we have to write a lot of grants, and the more you say that you're just miserable and you're just so lonely and you just can't do anything, the more money they give you. Wrong.
Right.
So we try to put into our proposals the positive spin on it, and how indeed you could build upon this positive. And so it's reframing the message that we're giving.
That's
at the Bureau.
great. Yeah, I mean, now that you mention it, yeah, I even think of a lot of the pictures of older people, and it just, you don't see vital, active older people, or if they are active, they're always ambulatory. I mean, you don't tend to see many older people who have a disability depicted in an active, happy way. That's a big job that you guys are taking on.
And also, too, just to sort of address somebody with a disability in their aging, that's a whole nother ball game. And actually, you and I chatted the other day, and you sort of put a bug in my ear, and I did some research, and there's a little bit of research on what happens, because a lot of things happen with somebody with a disability, and we need to start thinking about that today.
Right. I mean, I think about healthy aging for someone who has an intellectual disability. What happened when they begin to maybe experience cognitive issues, and that's not something that I've seen or heard anything about.
And we really need to educate our medical profession, because you talk about somebody with a cognitive disability, and let's say they start getting dementia. That the physician oftentimes will go, oh, that's just, that's nothing. Right. And that's wrong.
How do you differentiate between an intellectual disability and cognitive decline? And people who know people with intellectual disability can spot it easily. But I'm afraid that most of our elder care system, they're not equipped to differentiate and give people accessible ideas of ways that they accessible treatment. The treatment isn't accessible. So, do you see a difference between DD services and elderly and adult services?
That's a good question. I believe everybody's different, but yes, I have, and I'd like to just kind of share that with you. Many older individuals really are very ageist. They speak very negative about themselves. They've really bought into the bias of the community, or their own their own implicit biases within the DD Council membership. And I don't know everything, but I only can really comprehend what I hear. I don't see that in the membership. I don't hear the members, the folks with lived experience with intellectual disabilities, really talk negatively of themselves, and I find that so refreshing. But then again, I don't know how people feel deep inside. I only know what they express, and I think that's a positive. And maybe I can learn from that on how to promote that within the population that I serve.
That's really interesting. So you're talking about what's called internalized ableism. And I know, personally, I have a lot of internalized ableism. Jim gets my husband, who has cerebral palsy as well, gets really frustrated with himself. So, I mean, I think there's a little more internalized ableism going on than is always obvious, but I never really even thought about internalized ageism and how that's. I've been reading this book called Disability Pride, and it's about the changes in the disability rights movement since the Americans with Disabilities Act, and how people born since that act passed have a much different view of disability and having disability than those of us who are old and were born before. And they're far less inclined toward internalized ableism. But yeah, looking at internalized ageism, it's really important to get people to think about that. I know also people that Jim is related to are like so afraid that they're gonna have to use a wheelchair, even though they've known Jim for 60 years and know that you can use a wheelchair. It's fine. It's such a weird thing. I'm hoping that the post-ADA generation will be less ageist because disability is so much more open in our society than it was than this current than like the generation, my generation, which is Generation X, and the baby boomers are.
That's my generation.
You must be in the tail end there, Jean.
Yes, actually, I am. As you know, I'm in the older group, and I actually, just to share with you, I experienced a lot of ageism. I had this. Yes, absolutely. I had this eye doctor not very long ago. It was a new doctor. She's about 12. Anyway,
she was about 12.
Well, 12 and a half. I'm sorry. Anyway, she kept calling me dear.
Oh, no.
And she kept calling me dear. And I'm like, okay, just ignore it, Jean, ignore it, Jean. Oh. And I couldn't ignore it. And so I said, it kind of fell out of my mouth, but I was so angry because I kept going back and holding it in. And I said to her, which is really not like me because I'm pretty easygoing, I said, do you call all your patients dear or just your older ones? And I just felt awful that I said that, but then I never went back to her.
But so the fact that you felt awful about that is sort of a little bit of internalized ageism, right? You don't feel empowered to speak out.
Exactly.
When people are ageist against you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, people call Jim Buddy all the time.
Yeah, see, that's so disrespectful.
I mean, even people we're close to and care about a lot still call him Buddy, and so. Anyway, the last question I have for you is, what do you think people should? What's one thing or many things, if you have many things, that you think people should know about the council?
Well, it's our purpose, I think, is the first and foremost thing that I'd like to talk about. We promote dignity, full rights of citizenship, cultural diversity, equal opportunity, and full participation for all New Hampshire citizens with developmental disabilities. The council creates and follows a state plan every 5 years to set goals to address the most important issues affecting people with developmental disabilities in New Hampshire. We work to remove barriers and promote opportunities for folks. And lastly, I want to share, well, not lastly, I could keep on talking. We at the council have a fabulous, fabulous website. So I really invite folks, please take a stroll, and that's www.nhcdd.nh.gov. Please, and please know we are a resource. And we are here for you.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jean, our illustrious chairperson. I've really enjoyed having you today. Thank you for sharing your perspective on aging and developmental disabilities. It's something that we just don't talk about enough, and we need to find ways to start making it part of the conversation. So thank you so much, Jean, for coming. And
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pat.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm Vanessa Blaze, and this was a production of the New Hampshire Council on Developmental Disabilities, produced by Isadora Rodriguez-Legendre and Vanessa Blaze, with many thanks to Josh Hardy and the rest of the crew here at Concord TV. We love to have guests with differing perspectives. These views are personal and do not necessarily represent those of the DD Council.